To get started, you'll need 2 covers and your pages prepared into signatures. You'll want at least 3 signatures. Today I have 8. Bookbinding thread of your choice, beeswax, 2 or more needles, scissors, pencil, and a ruler. You'll also want an awl or something to poke holes with, something to poke holes on. This is just cardboard. A beanbag or other soft weight is also helpful. Let's go ahead and make a template to plan our hole placement. A piece of scrap paper with straight edges works great for this. You can base your template off a signature or your cover. If they're about the same size, it really doesn't matter. Today I'm basing my measurements off my cover. I'm marking the edge where my cover is on my template, and I can use my ruler too if I want to. And then let's figure out where we're going to place our holes. Your measurements are going to vary according to the size of the book that you're creating. Regardless of the size, however, what I like to do is start my hole placement no more than 3/8 of an inch towards the edge. So no more than about 1 centimeter before the edge of the book. So I go ahead and mark those placings first. And then I work in from the outside. This binding is a double needle Coptic stitch, so you'll have to have 2 paired stations. How you space those is kind of up to you. I like 1/2 inch to 1 inch. Today I'm going with 3/4 inches. And to make it very easy to measure, what I do is I work from the outside in so that any excess space ends up on the inside. Tearing off the excess part of my template so that it matches the sides of my book. And then it's time to figure out hole placement on the covers. Usually I like to go about 1/2 inch in, and I make my marks on the inside of the book cover. That way if any end up showing, I can hide them, but it's kind of up to you. So I'm going 1/2 inch in and making my marks, then lining up my template and using the template as a guide to place the other marks. These are where the holes in the book cover will be. I like to mark it first with my pencil, and then go back in with the awl to actually poke the holes. Not really trying to go all the way through the cover on this first pass. The reason is I'm working from the inside to the outside, and I really don't want to push all that excess material to the outside of the cover. So the goal is just to poke it enough to where you can kind of see that it's coming out the other side. Get it, hold it in my hand so it's not exactly the safest. You can also place it on a piece of cardboard and poke through that way. If you're working from the inside out like I am, get just enough poking out on the outside and then flip the cover over and work from the outside in. So as you push the awl all the way through, any excess material ends up on the inside of the book. When it's time for the second cover, place your covers together, hold them very tight, and use the first cover as a guide. Go through the holes of the first cover and just get a little mark on the second cover, just enough so that you can see it. You don't have to go all the way through. It's just enough so you can see the holes on the second cover, and then you can finish them out. If you have any excess material poking out of your holes, it's really easy to fix. Just take the back of your awl or even a spoon, and you can just smush down over the top of those, and it'll push all the material back in. There are so many different ways to mark holes in your signature, so go with the way that you like the best. What I like to do is use my template as a guide with that first signature, and I go ahead and mark my holes, place them together and just mark them, and then use that signature as a guide for the rest. After marking the holes, I go ahead and place a little arrow at the top of the signature. Keeps them in line just in case I happen to drop them. Repeat this process for each signature. And then it's time to punch the holes. I open them up, put them on the cardboard, and punch the holes in each one. Again, there's more than one way to do this. Some people like to use a saw. I prefer the awl. It's kind of up to you. Once you have your signatures all prepared, double check that you have them all pointed in the same direction. It's very helpful to have that arrow at the very top of each signature, just in case they end up being dropped or whatever. Know from experience. Next, grab your thread. 2 different colors of thread will really help you see this peekaboo design. Beeswax. This sewing runs across the spine, meaning it runs from one cover, like the front cover, to the back. Because my book is small and I'm not having to go back and forth a ton, I'm going to pull out 1.5 arm lengths. And I'm going to do this for each thread. Because I planned for 4 holes in my book, I will need 4 threads. Once you have your thread cut, go ahead and wax each thread. This step is optional, especially if you have pre-waxed thread, but I like to add a little bit more just for that extra grip. When I'm using 2 colors of thread, make a very simple knot by looping around my finger, going through the hole to make a pretzel shape, and then pulling it, leaving a little bit of excess on the end. Then add your needles, 1 needle per thread. Just pull the thread through, do not tie a knot at the top. Go ahead and choose which cover you'd like to start from. I like sewing from the front to the back. Take your first cover and your first signature and place them down. We're ready to sew. Take your first cover and your first signature. Double check that the arrow on the signature is pointed in the same direction as the direction of the cover. Take your first thread, the first needle, and go from the valley on the inside of the signature to the outside. Pull your thread all the way through. Repeat the step with the other paired thread. You'll notice that the knot falls in the middle between each pair of stations. And then continue on down the book, repeating these steps for each pair of threads. If you'd like to cut the thread shorter, that's okay. Just make sure to leave a little bit of extra just in case you need to retie it. As we get started, understand this book may be sewn from either direction, and you may start from the left side or the right side. It doesn't matter. Today I'm starting the left-hand side, taking that first thread, that first needle, wrapping around from the outside of the book, through the first hole of the cover, to the inside, and pulling the thread all the way through. The thread coming through the cover should be placed between the 2 paired stations. Going to grab this scrap piece of paper so you can see it really well. There's the thread coming out of the signature, and there is the thread wrapping around the cover. Take the next thread of the 2 paired stations, wrap to the outside of the cover, go through the hole, and pull the thread all the way through. This thread should also be between the 2 paired stations. So you'll have your threads coming out of the signature that fall on the outside, the threads that are wrapping around the cover on the inside. Next, we're moving on to the next 2 paired stations. Take that first thread, go around to the outside of the cover, go through the hole of the cover, and pull the thread all the way through, making sure it falls to the inside of the 2 paired stations. Repeat this step for the next thread, wrap around to the outside of the cover, go through the hole, pull the thread all the way through, and those 2 threads should fall between the paired stations. So the threads that are coming out of the signature are on the outside, and the threads that are wrapping around the cover fall on the inside. That's what it should look like on the outside. If you're working with flat thread like I am, and it gets twisted, just take a moment, go ahead and untwist it, and you can rock on. Our next step is to loop the thread that's coming out of the signature from the outside to the inside. Take that first thread of the first pair of stations and loop from the outside to the inside just the thread that is coming out of the signature. For the next thread, remember on the opposite side of the pair, it's going to the inside between those 2 stations. So loop from the outside to the inside. Then move on to the next pair of stations. Loop from the outside to the inside, just that thread coming out of the signature. Repeat the same step until you work your way down the book. Just remember when you get to the other half of the pair of stations, you're looping back to the inside. Just from the outside to the inside, and then you can tighten them up. And that's what it should look like. We're ready for our next signature. Double check that the arrow on the signature is pointed in the same direction as the first signature in the cover. Then start with the outmost thread of the first pair of stations. Take your thread and go into the signature from the outside in. Pull your needle all the way through. Then go out the next hole. That's what it should look like on the inside. Take your next thread the second part of the pair of stations. Go through the signature from the outside to inside, trying to avoid that first thread. Pull your needle all the way through. Then go back out the first hole, the same one the original thread went into. Pull your thread all the way through, and that's what it should look like. Then move on to the next pair of stations. Take that first thread of that pair of stations, go through the first hole from the outside to the inside, pull your thread all the way through, then go out the next hole. Repeat the same step for the next thread. Remember, you're going from the outside to the inside, pulling your thread all the way through, then going back out that first hole of the pair of stations. You can go ahead and tighten up your threads if you like, and that's what it should look like on the inside. Next, we'll be looping one signature down between the cover and the first signature. Take that first thread, loop from the outside to the inside around the threads that connect the cover and the first signature. Pull your thread all the way through. We're making the first part of our loop. Repeat the same step with the second thread, looping from the outside to the inside between the cover and the first signature. Just the threads that connect the cover and the signature together. Repeat these same steps for the next pair of stations, taking that first thread of the pair, looping from the outside to the inside around the threads that connect the cover and the first signature. Repeat for the other half of the pair of stations, loop from the outside to the inside around the threads that connect the signature and the cover. Repeat these steps to work your way down the book. The thread should be looping from the outside of the pair of stations to the inside and ending up between the two stations. Go back to the very first pair of stations, take that first thread, and finish off the loop by going through the signature that you just came out of, back to the inside, then out the second hole. Pull your needle all the way through, and repeat this for the second thread. Go back through the hole to finish off your loop, then return out the first hole of the signature. Move on to the next pair of stations and repeat the same steps. Take the first thread of the pair, go back through the hole of the signature, pull your needle all the way through, then go out the opposite hole. Take the second thread of the pair, go back through the hole to the inside of the signature to finish out your loop. Then go back out the opposite hole. Your threads will end up back where you began. And that's what the completed loop should look like. Take your third signature and place it on your book. Take that first thread and go through the first hole of the signature, pull your needle all the way through, and then go out the second hole. Repeat the same step for the second thread. Go into the hole of the signature, pull your needle all the way through, then go back out that first hole. That's what it should look like on the inside. Go on to the next pair of stations. Take your first thread of that pair, go through the hole to the inside of the signature, pull your needle all the way through, then go out the second hole. Repeat this step for the second thread of the pair of stations. Go from the outside of the signature to the inside, pull your thread all the way through, then go back out that first hole. That's what it looks like on the inside. You can go ahead and tighten up your threads. Take that first thread and loop from the outside to the inside between the first and second signatures. Pull the thread all the way through. Repeat the same step for the second thread of the pair of stations. So you're taking that thread, you're looping between the first and the second signature from the outside in, pulling your thread all the way through to create the first part of your loop. Go to the next pair of stations. Take that first thread, go from the outside to the inside, loop between the first and the second signature, then repeat for the second thread of the pair of stations. Keep working your way down the book with each pair of stations. Next, we'll finish out our loops. Take your first thread, go through the hole, pull it all the way through, and then go out that second hole. Repeat the same step for the second thread of the pair of stations. Go through the hole of the signature, go back to the inside, then return out the opposite hole. Take the first thread of this next pair of stations, go through the hole to the inside of the signature, pull the needle all the way through, then go out the opposite hole. Repeat this step for the second thread of the pair of stations, going back into the signature, pulling your needle all the way through, then going out the opposite hole. This is the pattern for the rest of the book, all the way until you're ready to add the cover. Take your next signature, lay it across the top of your book. Your threads should be back to where they began. Take that first thread, go through the first hole, pull your needle all the way through, then go out the opposite hole. Repeat the same step for the second thread. Go into the second hole of the signature, pull your needle all the way through, then go out the opposite hole. Then repeat the same step for the next pair of stations. Take that first thread, go into the signature, pull your needle and thread all the way through, then go out the opposite hole. Then take that second thread of the pair of stations, go through the signature, pull your thread all the way through, then go out the opposite hole. We're ready for our loops again. This time we're looping between the second and the third signature. Take that first thread and looping between the second and the third signature. Take that second thread of the pair of stations, loop between the second and the third signature from the outside to the inside, and then move on to the next pair of stations. Take the first thread of the next pair of stations and loop from the outside to the inside between the second and the third signatures, and then repeat this step for the second thread of the pair of stations. Repeat these same steps and work your way down your book. To finish out the loops, you'll take that first thread, go through the first hole, pull your needle and thread all the way through, then go back out the opposite hole. Repeat these same steps with the second thread, go back into the signature, pull your needle all the way through, then go back out the opposite hole. Repeat these steps for the next pair of stations. Take that first thread, go back into the signature, pull your thread all the way through, then go back out the opposite hole. Then take that second thread of the pair of stations, go through the signature, pull your thread all the way through, then go out the opposite hole. By now you can really see the pattern starting to form. You'll keep sewing each additional signature in the same way until it's time to add the last cover. You're still working in paired stations, still taking that first thread, going into the first hole, going out the opposite hole, repeating this for the second thread, then working your way down to each pair of stations. Then you'll create your loops by linking one signature below. You'll take that first thread, you'll loop down one signature below, then repeat that same step for the second thread of the paired station. Then you'll work your way down the book. Then you'll return to that first thread and complete the loop by going back into that first hole and returning out the opposite hole of the paired stations. Repeat that step for the second thread of the paired stations, returning out the opposite hole, this places both of your threads back on their original side. Then work your way down the rest of the book. You'll take that first thread, you'll wrap around the cover from the outside to the inside and pull the thread all the way through. Once again, you want the thread running between the two paired stations. Repeat this step for the second thread of the pair of stations. You'll go to the outside of the cover, go through the cover to the inside, then back between the cover and the last signature. Both threads were staying to the inside of the two paired stations. You'll move on to the next paired stations. You'll take that first thread, go to the outside of the cover, go through the cover, and back between the cover and that last signature, and then you'll repeat that for the final thread. Remember, the threads will stay to the inside of the paired stations. Once you're at this point, you can go ahead and snug them up. Just like the first cover, we'll loop around the thread that comes out of the signature. You may have to push that other thread out of the way so you just catch the thread coming out of the signature. Repeat this for each remaining thread. I'm looping from the outside to the inside, just the thread coming out of the signature, then pulling the thread all the way, and I'll work my way down the book. Go ahead and snug up your threads. At this point, you could tie off your book, but I found that when I do so, the back cover isn't very tight. So what I like to do is one more additional step. I will take that thread and I'll loop from the outside to the inside, one signature down between the next to last and last signature, and then go back into that last signature. It'll make a little loop. It won't match the other loops that you created for each line of thread, but the book will be much tighter. Repeat the step for the second thread. You'll loop from the outside to the inside between the next to last and last signature, and then back into the hole of the last signature, and work your way down the book. This mimics what we've done on previous signatures. We just happen to be doing it with the cover. So you're looping from the outside to the inside between the next to last and last signature, then going back into the hole of that last signature. Once you repeated the step for all paired stations, you can tie it off. If you have quite a bit of excess thread, go ahead and clip off a little bit to make it easier to tie a knot. Whatever knot works best for you is completely okay. Today I'm just using square knots to tie off this book. If you choose to shorten your thread, make sure to leave a little extra after the knots. If you're finding that you can't quite see the colors of the design on your loops, go back with an awl or another sharp tool and gently pop out that middle thread and kind of scooch your loops over, and that thread will show up. Congratulations! You've sewn a Peekaboo double needle Coptic stitch. Thank you for watching, and if you'd like to keep sewing, check out this video. This binding is very similar.